I was standing outside my mother's front door holding a $300 birthday cake in my hands. My heart was full of hope. I had spent 3 months planning everything for her 60th birthday. I truly thought this would finally be the day she would see me, really see me as her son. But I had no idea that in just a few hours, the woman who gave birth to me would slam that door in my face and tell me I was no longer her child. Before I share this story with you, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments below, and if this story touches your heart, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. To understand why a son would cut off everything his family relied on, let me take you back to where it all began. I grew up in a small town in Ohio, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and secrets never stayed secrets for long. My father, Gerald, was an electrician. He worked long hours, came home with calloused hands, and never complained about anything. My mother, Linda, stayed home to raise me and my younger brother, Derek, who was 4 years younger than me. From the very beginning, there was something different about the way my mother looked at Derek compared to how she looked at me. Derek had her eyes, her smile, her way of talking. People always said he was her mirror image. I took after my father. Quiet, hardworking, reserved. My mother used to say I was cold as stone, that I never showed her enough affection. But the truth was, I just did not know how to reach her. When I was 12 years old, I won first place in my school science fair. I had worked on that project for 2 months, staying up late researching building. I was so proud. I remember standing on that stage holding my trophy, scanning the audience for my mother's face. She was not there. She had taken Derek to see a movie that day because he had been complaining about being bored. My father showed up during the last 10 minutes, still in his work clothes, and he clapped louder than anyone else in that room. That was the pattern of my childhood. I would achieve something, and my mother would find a reason to miss it. Derek would do the bare minimum, and she would celebrate him, like he had conquered the world. My father loved me, I knew that. But he never stood up for me in front of my mother. He kept the peace by staying silent, and his silence taught me that maybe I was not worth fighting for. So I did what I thought would fix everything. I tried harder. I studied longer. I never got into trouble. I did every chore without being asked. I thought that if I could just be perfect enough, my mother would finally see me. But perfection was never enough for someone who had already decided not to look. When I turned 18, I received a scholarship to attend college in Columbus. It was my ticket out, my chance to build something of my own. The day I left, my mother did not come to say goodbye. She said she was tired and that I could handle it on my own. My father walked me to my car, pressed $500 into my hand, and hugged me tighter than he ever had before. He whispered in my ear to make him proud. I promised I would. College was hard. I worked 3 part-time jobs while carrying a full course load. There were nights I survived on instant noodles and coffee nights I questioned if I could keep going. But I did. I graduated with honors in software engineering and landed a job at a major tech company in Austin, Texas. 8 years later, I had worked my way up to senior software engineer, earning $170,000 a year. I had built a life I was proud of, a life I had created with my own 2 hands. Meanwhile, Derek dropped out of college after 1 year. He bounced from job to job, never lasting more than 6 months anywhere. At 30 years old, he was still living with our parents, not paying rent, not contributing anything. But in my mother's eyes, he could do no wrong. He was there. That was enough for her. Everything changed when I was 26 years old. My father had an accident at work, a bad fall that damaged his back. He could not work anymore. A few weeks later, my mother called me. It was the first time she had reached out in years, and she was crying. She said they were about to lose the house, that they could not pay the bills, that they did not know what to do. I did not hesitate. I started paying their mortgage every month, $1,800. I covered their electricity, water, and internet bills, about $400. I bought health insurance for the whole family, $800 a month. I paid for my mother's car, $450 monthly. In total, I was sending home over $3,400 every single month. I thought this would change things. I thought my mother would finally see that I cared, that I had always cared. I called home every week, but she always seemed in a hurry to hang up. Every time I visited, she spent most of her time talking to Derek while I sat in the corner like a stranger in my own family's house. 2 years into this arrangement, I went home for Christmas. I brought expensive gifts for everyone: a cashmere sweater for my mother, new tools for my father, even a nice watch for Derek. When it came time to open presents, my mother unwrapped. My gift glanced at it briefly and set it aside. Then Derek handed her a cheap scarf he had probably picked up at a gas station on his way over, and she acted like he had given her the moon. She hugged him, told him he was so thoughtful, said she would treasure it forever. I sat there watching this happen, and something inside me cracked. Not broke, not yet, but cracked. I realized that my money was welcome in that house, but I was not. The next few years were a slow descent into something I did not fully recognize until I was drowning in it. The requests for money increased. My mother needed $5,000 to fix the roof, then $2,000 for a new refrigerator. Then Derek needed $10,000 to start a business. I sent it all. Derek never paid back a single cent, and his business never materialized. The money just disappeared. What hurt more than the money was the silence between transactions. My mother only called when she needed something. When I got promoted at work, I called to share the news. I was so excited, expecting maybe just a small word of congratulations. Instead, she said, "Well, now you can help Derek more." That was it. No pride in her voice. No acknowledgement of my hard work. Just Derek. 6 months later, I decided to bring my girlfriend Amanda home to meet my family. Amanda was kind, intelligent, and she genuinely wanted to make a good impression. We stopped by my parents' house before attending a wedding of one of my old high school friends. My mother barely looked at Amanda. When Amanda complimented the house, saying it looked beautiful, my mother responded, "That is because Derek takes such good care of it." I stood there stunned. I had been paying the mortgage on that house for 4 years. Derek had never contributed a single dollar. But according to my mother, he was the one keeping everything together. At the wedding, things got worse. A distant relative approached me and said, "Zachary, it has been so long. I hear Derek is doing really well for himself these days." I had no idea what he was talking about until I realized my mother had been telling everyone that Derek was the successful one. She never mentioned me at all. To the rest of the family, I did not exist. On the drive back to Texas, Amanda looked at me with sadness in her eyes. She said, "I do not understand why you keep doing this to yourself." I did not have an answer for her, because I did not understand it either. 2 years before my mother's 60th birthday, my father died. It happened suddenly, a heart attack in the middle of the night. I got the call at 3 in the morning and caught the first flight to Ohio. I handled everything: the funeral home arrangements, the flowers, the casket, the burial plot, the reception. The total cost was $12,000. I paid for all of it. At the funeral, I ran around making sure everything was perfect while my mother sat with Derek accepting condolences. When family members came to offer their sympathies, my mother told them, "Thank goodness Derek has been here with me. I do not know what I would do without him." Nobody mentioned my name. Nobody acknowledged that I had paid for everything. I was invisible even at my own father's funeral. After the service, we gathered at a lawyer's office to read my father's will. He did not have much to leave. The house was still under mortgage. There was no savings. But he left me one thing: his old watch and a letter. I did not open the letter until I was alone in my hotel room that night. My father's handwriting was shaky, probably written when he was already sick. It said, "Son, I am sorry I was never brave enough to stand up for you. I watched your mother treat you unfairly, and I stayed silent because I was afraid. That was my greatest failure as a father. I want you to know that I have always been proud of you, more proud than I ever found the words to say. Please live for yourself. Stop trying to please people who refuse to see your worth. You deserve to be loved for who you are, not for what you can give. I love you, son. Dad." I cried alone in that hotel room until there were no tears left. The next morning, I flew back to Texas and continued paying my family's bills. My mother asked me to increase the monthly amount since my father was gone and expenses were higher. I agreed. I raised it to $4,000 a month. I was still hoping, still waiting for her to see me. 3 months before her 60th birthday, I started planning. I wanted this to be the moment everything changed. I ordered a custom birthday cake from the most famous bakery in Austin, $300. I bought her the pearl necklace she had mentioned wanting for years, $2,500. I requested 3 days off work to fly home and spend quality time with her. Amanda could not come due to her own work commitments, but she sent flowers on my behalf. I told myself this time would be different. I rehearsed a small speech I wanted to give in front of the family, telling my mother how much she meant to me, how grateful I was to be her son. I practiced it in the mirror until I had every word memorized. The drive from the airport to my mother's house took 4 hours. I spent the whole time imagining how the day would unfold. I pictured her face lighting up when she saw the necklace. I imagined her finally pulling me into a hug and telling me she was proud of me. I was 32 years old and I was still chasing a dream that had never been real. When I arrived, the house was full of relatives. My mother sat in the center of the living room like a queen on her throne with Derek positioned right beside her. When I walked through the door carrying the cake and a wrapped gift box, she glanced at me briefly, then turned back to continue her conversation with a cousin. I set the cake down in the kitchen and joined the gathering, waiting for an opportunity to give her my present. Derek went first. He handed her a bouquet of flowers that looked like they cost maybe $15 from the grocery store down the street. My mother burst into tears. She hugged him and said, "Derek, you are the greatest blessing of my life. You have always been my rock." Then it was my turn. I handed her the velvet box containing the pearl necklace. She opened it, looked at it for maybe 2 seconds, and placed it on the side table. She did not try it on. She did not thank me. Instead, she said, "You always think money can fix everything." I felt my face burn with humiliation. Relatives were watching. Some looked uncomfortable. Most looked away. I stood there holding nothing, realizing I had spent $2,500 on a gift that meant absolutely nothing to her. Derek gave a speech after dinner. He talked about how much he loved our mother, how she had always been there for him, how he could not imagine life without her. Everyone clapped. When he finished, I waited for someone to invite me to speak. Nobody did. My mother did not even look in my direction. Later that evening, after most of the guests had left, I went into the kitchen to help clean up. That was when I heard my mother talking to my Aunt Patricia in the living room. She did not know I could hear her. She said Zachary only came here to show off. He thinks having money makes him better than everyone else. Derek is the one with a real heart. Zachary has never cared about this family. My Aunt Patricia replied, "But Zachary pays for everything. The house, the bills, the insurance. He paid for Gerald's funeral." My mother scoffed. "He has money, so he pays. That does not mean he has love." Something inside me shattered. I stepped out of the kitchen and into the living room. My mother's face went pale when she saw me standing there. I said, "Mom, I heard everything you just said. Can you please tell me what I have done wrong?" She stood up, her face twisting with anger. She said I was eavesdropping, that I was disrespectful, that I had always been a disappointment. I did not yell. I spoke calmly, listing everything I had done for the family over the past 6 years. The mortgage payments, the car payments, the insurance, the funeral costs, the endless loans to Derek that were never repaid. Derek jumped in, accusing me of always throwing money in everyone's face. He said I thought I was better than him just because I had a fancy job. I turned to him and asked one simple question. "What have you ever contributed to this family?" He did not have an answer. That was when my mother exploded. She screamed at me, saying she was done. She said she had never wanted me to come, that I had ruined her birthday, that I was no longer her son. She grabbed my arm and pushed me toward the front door. I stood there in shock as she opened the door and shoved me outside. The last thing she said before slamming it in my face was, "You are dead to me." I stood on the porch in the rain, still holding the birthday cake I had bought for her. The door was closed. My mother was on the other side, celebrating with Derek. and I was alone. I walked to my rental car and sat inside for a long time. The rain pounded against the windshield. I thought about my father's letter. Live for yourself. Stop trying to please people who refuse to see your worth. That night in my hotel room, I did not sleep. Instead, I sat at the desk and wrote out a list of every single payment I made for my family each month. Mortgage, insurance, car, utilities, phone bills. It totaled over $4,000 every month, more than $48,000 a year. I called Amanda and told her everything that happened. She listened without interrupting. When I finished, she said something I will never forget. She said, "You have spent your whole life trying to earn love from someone who was never going to give it. It is time to choose yourself." The next morning, I made my decision. I would cut off everything. But I would do it properly, giving them 30 days' notice so they could make other arrangements. I would not disappear without warning. I would be clear, direct, and final. I wrote an email addressed to my mother and Derek with my Aunt Patricia copied as a witness. The email explained that effective in 30 days, I would be canceling all financial support. I listed each payment with exact amounts and termination dates. I thanked them for being part of my life and wished them well. I did not apologize. I had nothing to apologize for. For 2 days, there was silence. On the third day, Derek called me screaming. He called me ungrateful, selfish, a traitor. He said I was abandoning my own mother. On the 5th day, my mother called. She was crying, saying she did not mean what she said, that she was just emotional because of her birthday. She asked me to reconsider. I did not answer either call. I sent a single text message to both of them. It said, "You told me I am no longer your son. I am respecting that decision." My Aunt Patricia called me separately, but she did not call to criticize. She said she had seen everything that happened at the party. She understood why I was doing this. She told me she was proud of me for finally standing up for myself. When the 30 days ended, I kept my word. I canceled every payment, every account, every service. The mortgage was no longer my responsibility. The insurance stopped. The car payment ended. The utility bills went unpaid. My mother and Derek had to figure things out on their own for the first time. Derek finally had to get a real job. My aunt helped them with a temporary loan, but only on the condition that Derek contributed to the household. The house did not get foreclosed because they managed to scrape together enough money. But it was no longer my burden to carry. The first few weeks after cutting ties were some of the hardest of my life. Even though I knew I had made the right decision, the guilt was overwhelming. I would wake up in the middle of the night wondering if my mother was okay, wondering if I had been too harsh. I saw photos on social media of my mother and Derek together, smiling as if nothing had happened. They did not seem to miss me at all. That was when I understood something important. I was mourning a relationship that had never truly existed. My mother had never loved me the way I needed her to, and no amount of money or sacrifice was ever going to change that. I started seeing a therapist. She helped me understand that I was not responsible for my mother's inability to love me. She taught me that setting boundaries was not selfish. It was self-respect. She helped me grieve the mother I wished I had while accepting the mother I actually got. Slowly, things began to change. I stopped carrying the weight of my family's expectations. I invested in myself. I took Amanda on a trip to Italy, something I had always dreamed of but never allowed myself because I was always sending money home. 6 months after that birthday, I proposed to her. She said yes. I reconnected with old friends I had neglected. I focused on my health, joining a gym, and learning to cook meals that did not come from a microwave. I used the $4,000 I used to send home every month to build savings, take classes, and enjoy life for the first time in years. My Aunt Patricia remained the only family member I stayed in contact with. She would update me occasionally. Derek got a stable job at a warehouse. My mother was doing okay. She never asked about me, and I never asked about her. Some bridges once burned are better left in ashes. If I could go back and tell my younger self one thing, it would be this: you cannot buy love, and you cannot earn love from someone who has decided you are not worthy of it. The only love you can control is the love you give yourself. Setting boundaries does not make you a bad person. It makes you someone who knows their own worth. Forgiveness does not mean letting people hurt you again. It means releasing the anger so it stops poisoning your own heart. I do not know if my mother will ever realize what she lost. Maybe one day she will. Maybe she never will. But that is not my concern anymore. I have learned that I deserve to be loved not for what I provide, but for who I am. And if you are out there watching this trapped in a situation where you give and give but never receive anything back, I want you to know something. Walking away is not giving up. It is choosing yourself. And sometimes choosing yourself is the bravest thing you will ever do. I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever had to cut off a family member to protect your own peace? What helped you make that decision? Please share your story. If this video touched you, please give it a like, subscribe to this channel if you have not already, and share this with someone who might need to hear it today. Thank you so much for watching and for being part of this community. I wish you all the courage to choose yourselves and the peace that comes when you finally do.